Welcome back to the In Our Issues podcast. I'm Nathan Donnelly, and this is part 2 of our peer support episode. Peer supporters are people who help people who are struggling with their mental health and addictions to find help of their own. Here, we get into the meat of what it's like being a peer supporter. I ask my fellow co-hosts, Bill and Amanda, many questions about their experiences. Without further ado, here is the IOI crew. And we are live.
Yay! Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to In Our Issues. This is going to be part 2 of our peer support episode. And boy, do we have a lot to share with you today.
Yeah, and if you're joining us for the very first time, we're the In Our Issues crew. This is Nathan, I'm Amanda, and this is Bill.
What's up?
And we are here to provide you information on mental health and peer support and other fun, great things.
You know why I love talking about peer support?
Bye.
Because we get to talk
Why is
about
that?
all the stuff we did wrong.
Yeah, right? Exactly. All the lessons that we've learned along the way.
Whoa, no, you took it too far.
I went too positive with it. I'm sorry. I
did.
apologize.
You
see.
gave me quote traits I don't have. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, there's just that's the thing is like you're always learning, you're always making mistakes, and you have to forgive yourself for them in order to grow and stuff. So regardless,
I am always learning. You can't speak for other people.
yeah. So it's like, that's true, but what I mean
But that is true fundamentally. We are all learning. We are all, constantly moving and
speaking from
changing.
But the reason mistakes are fun in peer support is because they're all in the past. We're not talking about things we're doing now.
Right. Absolutely. What was one of the biggest lessons learned in peer support for you, Bill?
Make sure you're holding your mic.
Do I have to?
Can you hear it from there?
I'll pull it closer.
Okay, if you don't, it's fine if you don't want to.
Well, Amanda, what was your question? Biggest lesson I learned?
Yeah.
I don't know, but what pops into my head is boundaries.
Absolutely.
That's very important. You know what? I think just listening. I didn't listen very well before I started doing this. You may remember when I didn't listen very well.
I do.
Do you?
Yep.
It's different, isn't it?
It is very different. So for all of you who are listening or watching, Bill and I have worked together for the past 6 years. And he was the one who actually got me in the building here at the Recovery Center.
I had a key.
Yeah, I think he got you in the building.
I was going to say,
right?
I was going to wait for you to finish, but yeah, I was going to say he did the same thing for me, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in the beginning of our professional relationship, it was really fun, and it was really just like, I don't know, very free.
Yeah, free's a good word.
Yeah, not a lot of constraints on the things that we were able to do.
No, you're right about that. And I'm a brainstormer. And so I throw all kinds of things out. And then you pick what you think is good, and then we go.
He's the brainstormer, I'm the doer. So what did we always say, that you're head in the clouds, I'm boots on the ground?
That's the one.
So
love that.
Any big idea that Bill would always come up with, I would be like, okay, this is how we do it. This is how it happens. And then sometimes that led to, if we're talking about lessons learned, me taking on way more than I probably should have. But, at the time I didn't know that, right? It's all about navigating and understanding and finding out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, and you know what? In this career, as opposed to others I've had in the past, and I've had a few, you got to really be careful with your energy.
Absolutely.
Doing what we do.
Yeah.
That's a big lesson.
Yeah, I think that's a huge lesson for me as well, because I have burnt myself out by taking on other people's stuff. I mean, coming in, we've talked about highly sensitive people. That's another episode that we've done. And coming into this, I didn't realize how much of a highly sensitive person I was, and how much that I was able to really put myself into the emotions of others and take that away with me. And it really burnt me out really quickly, not being able to do that energetic boundary of not taking on people's emotional states. And I'm still working on it. It's an everyday process. It's a really difficult thing.
But you're better.
Yes. Oh, I'm so much better now than I used to be. Holy cow.
What makes it better?
Knowing myself, knowing what my boundaries are. I think that was the biggest thing. Knowing what boundaries are in general, right? And
Knock, knock.
Hello?
Do you think that was because of noise or because of something they're doing?
I don't know. I think someone's probably moving something. Oh, it's probably the art room.
Yeah.
Okay. And anyways, boundaries are not ways to control other people, but they are the ability to express and stand on what we will and will not tolerate, right? And that's the important part of boundaries, is saying what the boundary is and then standing on that boundary for yourself. Right. So I really, really had to maintain those boundaries for myself, especially in a workforce that is so mental health heavy and so mental health and wellness related, that I had to figure out what those boundaries were for myself. Like, how much do I want to do the one-on-one peer support? Because that's not all of my job, right? And how much do I want to, spend on doing my actual job? Like, how much of my day do I want to give to peers and things like that? So it was definitely a big adjustment and learning process for sure.
Let's touch on boundaries. We've talked about this before, but, and you had this problem, and part of it was probably my fault. Boundaries are really hard to redraw.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You got to get them right the first time. And luckily in peer support, there are boundaries that are defined by the state.
Yeah. And that was really good. And that was something when I came into this, working in peer support, I didn't know until I took the training. And then even when they give you the training through the state of Ohio, then you have to go into the workforce, and then you have a whole different rules and regulations for whatever organization or business that you work for. And for me, I had none. I just kind of came in here and I had the peer support training and a wish and a hope and a dream.
Yep. You got thrown to the wolves.
Yeah. And so it was a really big learning process for me on what that looks like, because I've never really had that freedom. I've worked jobs that were very constricting. I've worked with my parents before who were really domineering and demanding. And I've just worked in infrastructures where it was just like you were always being micromanaged. And coming here, I was the opposite.
Yep. Suddenly, what do you do with all this freedom?
Right. And so I definitely had to learn that really, really quickly. And leaning on that framework that we learned was extremely, extremely important. Yeah. And like you said, I would sit with people for hours upon hours. Like, I'm not kidding you, for 2-3 hours sometimes. And I didn't realize that was an okay thing to do. Like, I didn't realize I had any other option, because I wanted to meet people in their pain and help them so much that I was like, this is what I'm doing, right? This is what I'm going to do. And then I learned very quickly that's a great way to get burnt out. And it's a great way to really just not care about yourself, not care about myself,
That also, not spending 2 or 3 hours with somebody, but it kind of leads me to think about staying in your own lane.
Absolutely.
That's another big thing I had to learn, is what my lane is. Who defined my lane? I got a couple different definitions. I got one from my boss, and then I got one from the state, and then I got one for my own personal ethics, which has to be at least at or higher than the state's or my boss's, right? Or it doesn't work.
Absolutely.
So staying in my own lane. And you know what? Staying in your own lane for me is hard if someone's in crisis and it's real. I can't do anything for them. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest things that you taught me that I really appreciate you for, is advocating for yourself and being like, yeah, you can say no. Honestly, you should be saying no. And that was a huge thing that you really helped me out with, that when I'm, maybe peer supporting somebody that makes me feel uncomfortable. I mean, this is important for you too, if you work in peer support, that if there's at any time you feel uncomfortable or somebody dysregulates you, talk to your supervisor, talk to the people in charge, and really try to find a way to not only help that peer, but help yourself. Because when I was in situations of dysregulation, meeting with these peers, I wasn't showing up in the way that I should have, right? I wasn't showing up as my best self. I wasn't able to help them because the whole time I was in my head trying to regulate myself while they were in front of me dysregulated. And so I had to, thanks to you and thanks to a lot of what you've helped me with, is really advocate for myself and come to you and be like, hey, I can't with this person today. I don't know what it is about today, or I can't in the future. This person makes me uncomfortable, or whatever the circumstance was, and you saying that's perfectly fine. Because, as peers, we all have our lived experience. And I grew up in environments where I couldn't say no. I couldn't advocate for myself. And suddenly I am in a world where that is absolutely necessary and you have to do that. So it was a lot of lessons learned.
I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you were a really, really big support and a really big help to me in navigating that. And even today, and even still, like, just being even more of an advocate. Like the other day, we had this experience of where I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. And then Bill also backed me up and said, yeah, she shouldn't have to. And it was a really great feeling to know that, hey, I'm advocating for myself, but like somebody else also has my back at the same time, which is the beauty of peer support, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, all peers also need peers sometimes, you know, that's just how it is. And
Absolutely.
Bill, I wanted to ask you actually, when you talked about the importance of being in your own lane, I was wondering if you'd be willing to share with us perhaps a story of when you realized you stepped out of your lane and you like realized and what you needed to do to get back in.
That's a tough one. You give me a minute on that, but yeah, I'll come up with one.
All right, we'll let Bill load for a bit there.
Yeah.
Yeah, peer support is no joke. Like some people are going through crisis, and you know, in some cases their lives might be at stake. I mean, it's like crazy stuff sometimes. Like you guys have more support with it you guys have more experience with it than I do currently. I mean, I've taken the course and I've passed it. I just need to do the exam so that I can actually take on
certified?
people. Yeah, get certified.
Well, you bring an interesting viewpoint to the conversation, because if you want to, you can probably speak to what peer support has done for you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Actually, yeah. You know, peer support for me I've just from you guys have actually done peer support for me. There were times where I walked into work and they could tell that there was just something off because it was written on my face, and they were like, instead of working today, we're just sitting down and we're going to help Nathan feel better. And it really did. I wasn't expecting that, but it's exactly what I needed. Amanda sat me down and threw fidget toys in my face, and I was able to talk out what was going on, and they were able to listen, provide resources and advice, and you know what, and it's like after that you just sometimes like your problems feel a lot smaller when your emotions aren't amplifying them. And I think that's what peer support does, is it helps you get out of your emotions and more into your head so you can make good choices for yourself.
That's a great comment. If we can get people into their wise mind while we're in our wise minds, that makes things happen.
Yeah.
One thing I want to push back on, we don't give advice. I don't give advice to anybody as a peer supporter.
Well, yeah. See, you want to define things pretty strictly with peer support, because advice is more.
You should do this.
Yeah.
Don't shit on yourself.
It's more like suggestions, I guess. What would you say?
It's more of like utilizing our lived experience of like, well, this is what I did, but you have to find what works for you, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's
just defining what's you and what. And so that they understand that is you and your experience, and that it's not necessarily going to be theirs. Like,
yeah.
Like, what were you going to say?
That's
sorry.
it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because I got a result doesn't mean you're going to get the same one.
Yeah.
So,
I think, like at the core of it too, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But I think at the core of it, truly, it's just like being able to sit there in front of somebody who is, maybe dysregulated or having a really bad day, and holding that hope for them that they don't have in that moment, and being like, dude, I've seen you on the other side of this, or like I've, seen you at your best, or I've seen you at way better than this. And, these are the ways that have been successful for you that we've found together in the past. So let's try these ways again. And if these ways don't work, what have you found that works for you,
You mentioned hope. That's really
hope
at the foundation of everything that we do.
Yeah. We're hope dealers.
Yeah, exactly.
We're dealers in hope. Hey, kids, you want some of this hope? But yeah, like for real though, it's like, what were you going to say about it, Bill? Or were you going to say something?
I'm good.
Okay. I was making a joke, but like I didn't want to cut you off if you had something to say. But I wanted to say that like it's really is like when we've talked about this before, but when Amanda says hold your hope, it's like sometimes like when she says that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like sometimes like when things are really rough, you don't even have room for hope in your brain, and so you need someone else to hold it for you. And
I did. Yeah.
Like
I had my 10 years ago, I was hopeless. And I had my doctor, a psychiatrist, tell me, I'm going to carry your hope for you until you can carry it. And I was like, okay, that sounds really new agey. And then, 8 years later, here I am. And I have my own, although it ebbs. But this is a good place to be when it does. So,
Yeah.
True.
I think too, a big part of peer support, in addition to like hope and holding hope for people and inspiring them through our lived experience, is getting to know the peer that you're working with and becoming intuitive of them, their emotional state. Like Nathan said, like there's days, like he said he came in and we could see that he was not doing the best at that moment.
It's written on my face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of about, knowing and seeing people, and the beauty about that lived experience is like we're able to do that in a way that, people who don't have lived experience might not be able to do, right? Some people are really good at that regardless. But we do kind of have that superpower in a way of being able to say like, hey, I see you. What can we do?
Superpower.
do we did define what peer support is last time, right?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, good.
We went in through the ebbs and the flows of peer support for sure.
Oh, we got to
Pause.
pause real quick.
Please hold for a brief interruption.
I was right.
In our issues, we'll return after these brief.
After this brief commercial break, you can grab the trash if you want. Go for it.
Sponsored by Your Hopes and Dreams.
Sponsored by Buskin' Donuts. Just kidding, no, it's not. If you want to sponsor us, you can. Sponsored by Your Hopes and Dreams. That just
You like that?
that just got in my brain. Thank you. And we're back. So what was the question that you asked Bill earlier that you wanted him to answer? Do you have an answer? Oh,
Not yet.
Oh, examples of you not
know what
saying
it
your
is.
lane when you should have.
Like,
Okay,
where-
I forgot.
Do you have some?
I have plenty
You
of
probably
examples.
know for me. I mean,
All right.
Oh,
Well,
for you? I
could
have
we
some for
could we be
myself.
like same question, Amanda?
Sure.
sure.
Like,
I think in this building, I am a reckless driver. I think
Good.
it's really
It's good metaphor.
the way to explain it
Yep.
is I swerve and go into many different lanes. I mean, that's the beauty of
yeah.
the job posting saying, what is it?
Other duties as required.
Other duties as assigned or as required, right? And I'm that type of person. I do a lot, and I lane shift every day, all the time. That's a part of working in this organization. But there are things that are not my lane that I should not be doing. And I thought I had an example, but it just went blank in my brain.
You took the word lane quite literally.
No, I did.
And we
I
talked
mean,
about driving.
No, but like what I'm saying is like I do so many different things in this building that originally weren't in my lane when I first got here for my job description that like now I'm doing. And, a lot of it is peer support in general. Like a lot of it is I do help other people with their job in this building, but a lot of that is just being a support to them while they do their job, if that makes sense.
You were working with, I was the one that was taking it literally incorrectly. I thought you literally were talking about reckless driving. Okay, you were working with a metaphor there. That's beautiful.
I was, yes,
That's beautiful.
yes.
It was well said. It was beautifully said.
Thank you.
I think my lane changes, and I'm sure they're on the opposite side too, but started out at least trying to do too many things for people instead of helping to empower them to do things for
Absolutely.
themselves.
That's a great example. I was going to say
yeah.
too, the example of being a peer supporter, and sometimes the lane shifts into that case management or the resource coordinator role. That's not what we do.
Right.
At all. And there's been many times where I do that just because I see somebody in distress and they need assistance. And I'm like, okay, what can we do? Like, let me go into this. When in reality, they have a case manager. We could just call their case manager or 211 or like another resource in the community. Because
Yeah.
it's important that we stay in our lane because we don't want to repeat the wheel somebody else may already be doing.
Exactly. Yeah. And if it's something that, someone needs to learn to do for themselves, we can help them down that road. But my instinct was to just do it.
Yeah, that's how I was when I first got here as well. And also, like, there's been times in the beginning when I first worked here of people would be like, well, I need a therapist. So I would go and search for therapists for them, which is like not my job, not what I should be doing, right?
But if someone did say to you, I need a therapist, we can certainly give them resources to find one.
Exactly.
We wouldn't just say, not me.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I see.
So brokering resources is a big part.
Yeah, it's a huge
Big
part
part
of
of
what we
what we
do. Absolutely. And I think, too, there's been so many things that we have learned navigating this field that, I can't speak for you, but I can speak of what I've seen of you.
Yeah.
And from that, I know that you and I have both grown so tremendously in our ability to peer support and the way in which we peer support and the way in which we've maybe had pitfalls in the past. I think we've definitely, patched those up.
That's a good point.
Move forward.
Yeah. You know what? You brought this up. This is a side. You're one of very few people in the world I would let speak for me on a lot of things, Yeah.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. I would honestly say the same for you as well.
So if I'm in a coma,
I'm tapping in. I'll be there. I will definitely be there, and then I'll be there to stick all the Nerf bullets on the ceiling.
thank you. Oh, that's the good old days.
Oh yeah.
And put magnets literally everywhere.
Yeah. Like put them in peanuts and stick them on your
Forgot about
microphones.
that one.
Yeah. I think too another huge lesson that I've learned in being a peer supporter is the importance
Yeah, huge lessons.
the importance of self-care.
I knew you were going to
and pouring back into yourself and really, really, really paying attention to where you're at, because they say this all the time in trainings and in the peer support, but like it is so true of like, it's like, and you and I have been through this a lot of times of like, you cannot be and like show up in the best way you can if you're not there, and if you're not pouring back into yourself and you're not doing the things that you need for yourself and really trying to show up as much as you can. And it's just so, especially with those energetic boundaries, and especially with like you're hearing people's stuff all the time, like it's just so important to have that like that transition, that like that reorienting after a session and things like that. Like it's just so important to pour that back into yourself.
You're right, to the point for me that I've never been in an occupation before where I would tell somebody, please don't come in because you can't be you today. Nathan, talks about wearing your emotions on your face. Me too.
Yeah.
Same thing. And so most often, if I'm not here, it's because I'm not good for the people in the building.
Yeah.
And
that's perfectly okay. That's like a super acceptable thing.
You got to tap out on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. To Nathan's point earlier, like when he came in here and he wasn't doing well, I was like, we're not working today. I was like, you joke, like we're not doing this. Like we're going to focus on you. We're going to make sure you're good before anything else happens, because you can't show up as your full self if you're not good.
Yeah. You're going to be faking like anywhere from 30 to 90% of it. Like,
you know what? For me, can I say dick? For me, it's not, faking. It's just, I'm just not very nice to be around. I
can attest to that.
So,
what?
Yeah. Those days are few now, but.
Yeah, they're far few in between now. But before, I would know when he was having a bad day, because he'd get really spicy with me. He'd be a little sassy.
Anger control is like it's definitely like one of the things that I also like struggle with, and it's like it's not. I think that I think a lot of people do struggle with it but won't admit it. And I think that like if you're gonna show up for somebody, then like having that stuff, being self-aware of that stuff is the first step towards like having more control and having more like and being able to be there for yourself, for others, and for yourself. It's like and like having, I don't know how, like that would actually be a fun little idea. Did you have? I was
gonna say that should be a topic that we speak about at some point.
Anger management.
Yeah.
Because I was going to bring that up. I was either going to do a side tangent on it right now, or we were going to like do it.
I think that we should do an episode on it, because I have struggled with anger a lot of my life. It's one of the things that I help peer support people on as well. It's like managing their anger and what that looks like, because I used to have really bad anger issues to the point where I would beat people up and punch holes in my wall. Like I have plenty of stories of those kinds of things.
And you grew up with people who didn't help you regulate that stuff. So it's like it makes perfect sense.
I grew up around people who were extremely dysregulated. which is why I have such a power. I mean, and that's the thing about peer support, working in peer support and being peer supporters, is that we utilize our lived experience to help others. And, to my childhood detriment, now my wreckage is my resume because of the fact that I spent my entire life regulating the adults around me, which now I help people to understand what that looks like for themselves, right? It's not my job to regulate their emotions for them, right? It's my job to let them know, hey, this is how I regulated myself in a world that was extremely dysregulated, and this is how I'm learning to navigate the world when I grew up in dysregulation. What does that look like for you? How does that work for you? What's worked in the past? Have you tried these things, right? So those are all very important things, but I think anger would be a good topic for next time, for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're talking about topics. We have to talk about regulation.
Regulation.
Did we do a show on regulation?
We haven't. I think regulation would be a great one.
Regulating, just because I think that there's scientifically speaking, there's a lot of things that will help you regulate, and then there's other things, but some things will be triggering for others. Blah blah blah. That's a fascinating topic. I will say, I like to turn on singing bowls, people who play singing bowls at specific frequencies that are meant to calm your mind down, and just hearing those tones and the singing, and it just calms me down, and the multiple voices too when they play chords and stuff, it's just simple and calming, and it brings me down instead of whereas you can music can regulate you too and stuff, but a lot of the times music will stimulate you and make you feel a lot of things. This is a specific frequency that helps you calm down and regulate your feelings, and I've started turning that on.
Regulating and down regulating, and there's different forms, but we should definitely talk about that in the future for sure.
I've started turning that on, and so regulating, to close this little tangent on regulating, it's important to have ways to regulate yourself if you're going to be a peer supporter, because in order to show up as your full self, you have to have yourself under control enough. So
yeah, absolutely. You have to bring that awareness with you, right? Just like we say in peer support, we meet people where they are. We have to meet ourselves where we're at.
Self-awareness is power.
And what that looks like.
True. I really like the Brene Brown scale of energy and engagement, and we use that. I'm a Brene Brown 10. You don't want to be around me. I'm a Brene Brown 90. That doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. But I just think peer support is it's such a beautiful thing, and working in peer support can really get up under you before you know it. So it's just really important when coming into this field and when working in this field, you do have the ability to regulate. You are managed in your anger, and that's why, when you come into this field, I think the requirements are you have to have you have to have half a year of sobriety or a year of sobriety or something like that. I don't remember what the specific rules are. But you do have to be actively engaged in your recovery process and what that looks like, almost kind of like sponsors do in a way.
Yeah.
And so it's just so important going into this field that you really ready yourself on your boundaries, your regulation skills, where your nervous system is at. And a lot of that you learn along the way too, but it would be better for your sake if it was prior to getting in there.
It's easier.
Yeah, just my personal suggestions from my personal lived experience of I jumped in the deep end and I swam and I swam and I swam until I was so exhausted I almost drowned. So, but luckily I had some lifeboats here in this building.
Well, you know what, too? Yeah. Because of the PhD that your parents gave you, you came in ahead to because not everybody can be thrown in
at 24.
Yeah. No, you came out shining. So
yeah, I appreciate
that. But that's not really typical.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate it because we didn't train you. I could have said me. I didn't want to, but I didn't train you.
Yeah, it was a lot of trial and error. And that's why going into the peer support field, you lean on your supervisors a lot and the people that are around you in the organization that you're in, because that's going to be your compass. That's going to be your anchor. And
do you think that we do a lot of talking about situations that we're helping or working with people with to try to bounce off of each other? You know what I'm talking about?
Say more.
Say it again.
Okay, part of peer support for me is just getting other people's opinions on things, even my own stuff.
Yeah.
because I'm never going to have all the answers,
Absolutely.
unfortunately. I didn't believe that for most of my life, but it turns out that's the case.
Right.
So having people that you trust that know what you're doing is really important to me.
Absolutely. And I think a huge part of that too is accountability. Like,
Say more.
Yeah.
It's holding people accountable for what they want for themselves, and holding people accountable for their goals and their hopes and their dreams for themselves. That's a huge part of peer support.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people that I've peer supported in the past, they've seen it as like, I'm like maybe being a little bit controlling or trying to like micromanage them or like have my foot on their neck, metaphorically. Right. But a huge thing about peer support is like holding people accountable for the dreams and the hopes that they have for themselves. Right.
Right.
And here at our organization, we have goals. So like if I have somebody that I'm peer supporting and they're sitting in front of me like, man, I really want to do this. Man, I really want to do this. And then every time I see you, I'm going to ask you about that thing. Right. Until
Right.
you tell me that that's not what you want to do anymore. That's not something that you want to do anymore. Right. I'm going to like keep that accountability for you because I wish somebody would have held me
Yeah.
accountable when I wasn't being accountable to myself.
Yeah, I get that one. I do. That's a good point. I think that before accountability, you have to know what the goal of the peer you're supporting
Absolutely.
is. And so that's kind of the foundation of, now I'm going to hold you accountable. Was that okay?
Yeah.
What does that look like? Can I ask you about this when I see you? That kind of thing.
Yeah, of course, always establishing that sense of like safety before any of that. Absolutely is super important.
But yeah, without accountability, I wouldn't get anything done.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah, I would say it's like, as from my perspective, I have so many ideas. I always think of it like my brain is like I'm juggling 6 different thoughts at once. And at any point, one of them is liable to disappear or drop. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's just so many of them. And it's like with a brain like that, and I have some lofty goals on top of that. And so with a brain that works like that, accountability is key to progression, because otherwise, like, and also self-compassion, because like when I forget something that's really important, I have to forgive myself, and I have to do my best to to implement whatever ideas I have or whatever happens in my brain into a system where I can then hold myself accountable better. It's so much better to have a third party too, like just somebody who like knows what your goals are, who can throw you job applications, who can remind you without being annoying, who can remind you, you know what I mean? It's like, because sometimes like with a brain like mine, I drop all 6 things and then I'm like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Like this, that's from my experience. But like anybody who has some form of autism and ADHD combined can probably relate to that to some degree. But like, yeah, it's like, I think that everybody, like, everybody's got like their own way of brain operation, and if you've got goals, it's like, and if you say you want to do something and you really mean it, like, we don't mean to, like, I'm sure that as peer supporters, like, y'all wouldn't mean to annoy them, to help remind them what their next step like could be to help them achieve those goals. It's like it's just like it's just helping somebody achieve. It's just helping somebody stay on track. And that's something that's if you want to achieve something, you'll appreciate that. Should be appreciated.
Yeah, I think these two have probably gotten really annoyed with me at some point in our time together, because I'm always I'm always being maybe to a bit of an annoyance as well. Of, I'm always like, hey, are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? Like, are we still going to do this? Are we still going to do that? Like, I've done that with Bill throughout our whole time together of like, hey, we have this meeting, you're coming, I don't care what you say. But obviously with a peer, I would never say, I don't care what you have to say. But with a peer, it's too like, it's knowing the people that you work with and the peer that you're supporting of what is the level of comfortability here? Like, am I able to push a little harder, or is it a more softer approach, right? It's just about knowing people and connecting with people on such a human level of having that sweet spot between accountability and like cheerleading.
Yeah. And then some people benefit more from teasing, I'm sure. You know what I mean? Like, you like it to some degree. It's like there's some like like, you know, it just plays to their sense of humor or whatever, and then it'll help them remember things more. Like,
I get a lot more done from Bill when I am joking around with him and I'm being a little bit of an asshole to him in a sarcastic way.
Yeah.
All those things are true, but I don't need to see behind the curtain, because the way you manipulate me is really good, and I don't want to know how it works.
I don't manipulate you.
Just pull the strings.
You're blushing because I called you out on it. That's okay. You do.
I don't feel like I do.
What did you say? If I do this with Bill, I'm more likely to get what I want.
Well, if I
I mean,
no, if I say what I need from you in a joking way of like, hey, you fucking asshole, right?
Yeah.
Like if I say it something like that, like you're more inclined to be like, okay, yeah. Then if I'm like, Bill, I'm gonna need you to do this, right? If I'm more stern with you, you're less like, you kind of like shut down. If I'm more of like, hee hee ha ha ha, like.
That's because I'm petulant.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just meeting me where I am.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's true.
So I'm not trying to manipulate you. I'm just trying to meet you where you are.
Maybe I don't understand the word manipulation.
I mean, sometimes
I'm puppeteering your brain to help you.
Sometimes I will throw in a Reese cup or two in there, and then it becomes manipulation. Right?
Reese's cup.
Okay, fair.
Eat 'em up. Eat 'em up. Eat 'em up. Eat 'em up.
You know what? That's a great point, though, because for whatever reason, you can inspire me to move. So, and that's tough.
Yeah. I think, too, it just comes from a place of, like, the stuff that we do together, peer support related and, like, you know, working here related, it lights us up.
It does. And, you know, so the conversations that we have one-on-one, and don't think that's not peer support.
Yeah.
Because it is.
Absolutely. And I think, too, it also comes from the safety of being able to say no. And we have that ability with each other, I think. And like, I think we all kind of do in a way of we have that safety and that ability to be like, hey, I'm not feeling it today. Or like, hey, like, no, I don't like that idea. Like we have the freedom to say no. And I think in the freedom to say no, there's such a safety in that like everything else feels like a lot less pressure.
I agree with that.
The freedom to say no. I think that like, because, and the freedom to say no and to have it be like understood. Because like, I think that like you want to see, tell me if I'm wrong, but you want to see like some peer support that y'all might have already been doing in your lives. You look to maybe like some of your closest friends where you're like you want to see them achieve their goals, so you help them towards that. You know, it's different because we're doing it with people we've just met, but and it's like, you know, but like it's kind of like what you would naturally want to do to a good friend. Is that correct or incorrect?
Not necessarily, because peers are not our friends and we should not treat them as such.
Right.
And I think too, with my friends and even with my partner, they know when I have my peer support hat on versus when I have my I'm being your friend hat, and they do not like it. They
don't like
they do not like when I have my peer support hat versus my friend hat, because I there is a very specific way I handle situations from a peer support lens versus a friend lens.
Yeah.
And that is for a very important and specific reason. For a very, very safe reason, because I would not say to a peer the same things that I would say to my friends. Just like with Bill, I would consider Bill, you know, in the friend category rather than in the peer category, obviously. So I'm going to joke with him and I'm going to be like, oh, asshole, right? Like whatever I need to do to say that to him. But I would never say that to a peer, right? Same thing with my friends. Like I would be like, girl, what are you thinking? Right? Like I would be way more upfront with my friends than I would with a peer, because you know, I'm able to actually give them advice, and I'm able to actually, like, you know, be very honest and very transparent with them about what I think about their life, because I've been around them for a long time and I understand their life. And you can't really do that with a peer, because peers, you don't really give advice. You're not really supposed to be a friend.
Right.
You can be friendly, but you're not
Right.
supposed to be friends with the people that you are peer supporting. You can definitely potentially try to peer support your friends, but I guarantee you they're going to be like, what are you doing? They're going to be like, what is this happening right now? I don't feel comfortable.
In other words, they're two different things.
Absolutely.
Like,
Would you
but
agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
yeah, I think maybe there are some, like, I guess that what I was trying to talk to was that there are some things in common with like friendship and peer support, but they're not the same thing, and you wouldn't consider someone that you're supporting like a friend.
Yeah,
quote, unquote.
absolutely. I think the holding hope piece definitely is transferable.
Right,
holding hope
right.
for the people and meeting people where they are. I think
Right.
those are two very transferable skills to both friends and peer support.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they look very different. And that's something that is talked about a lot in the training of you're not supposed to, like, it's called dual relationships. And in those dual relationships, you're not supposed to treat a peer as if you were their friend. You're not supposed to like go out and hang out with them on the weekends. Like, it's just one of those things where you're not supposed to text them. Like, it's one of
Right.
it's one of those things where you have to keep a very set boundary, and that is for safety, not just
Right.
for you, but for the people that you're serving,
Right.
to make sure that no boundaries are being crossed and that, everything is above board and that nobody gets the wrong idea.
And it's not
Yeah.
a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
It's a very limited time relationship. And once it's over, it's completely over.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of peer support too. And like, our here at the recovery center, you said this or Chris said this, somebody said this, that like we
love you.
We love seeing you, but our job is to get rid of you. Same
job is
thing
to get
in
rid of
peer
you.
support. Like, we love supporting peers, but our job is to eventually not have to anymore, right? And if we keep having to peer support the same peer for a long time, that's okay too, but we have to kind of ask ourselves what's not working, what can we do better?
Right. Yeah.
Anything else? Anything else you can think of, Bill, that we haven't covered already?
Not the big stuff. I mean, I think, boundaries and our own experience.
Yeah.
Never telling anyone what to do. Not your friend.
And also don't, another thing too that I want to be very specific about saying when you're peer supporting is we do self-disclose, but it is within a very calculated and specific way. We do utilize and sharing our lived experience in
Yeah.
a very specific way to hold hope and to
Self-disclosing.
inspire another person. However, the peer relationship is not mutually beneficial.
Right. That's where
Absolutely
that's where
not.
that's where the big difference between friendship and it is. Where friendship is like more of a mutually beneficial thing, whereas like peer support is strictly to benefit like the person you're trying to help.
It absolutely can be, right? But that's
Yeah.
not the goal that you go into
Right.
peer support with. Is
Yeah.
that like, oh, I'm getting so much from this peer that they're getting from me. Like, sometimes that happens, but the goal is not to make that intentional, one, and two, not to overshare personal antidotes about your own life over and over and over again with that peer to the
Right.
point where that peer is then peer supporting you.
Well, the only reason I should talk about anything I've done in the past is if it's appropriate and it lends to the conversation.
Absolutely.
And that's the only
Exactly.
reason.
If it's relevant and if and sometimes the peer I've learned this in the youth peer support training a lot more than the adult peer support training, but sometimes people will bait you into talking more about yourself because they don't want to talk about themselves.
Yep.
And,
Yeah.
and sometimes they don't even realize that they're doing it, and that's fine.
Right.
We're all people. I've done that in my life. That's
Me
something
too.
that happens, but our job as peer supporters is to catch that and
Avoid
to be
it,
like
yeah.
to catch that and to be like, yeah, like this and this, but like how are you feeling about this, right? And always making sure that the focal point is back on the peer and that the peer is the one doing the work and the peer is the one that is getting the support and not the other way around. I've made that mistake myself as well. And it's, that's why I feel like it's important to talk about it.
Totally. Very important. And that's very common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You got someone that understands what you've been through that wants to listen to you and often kind of puts you up here a little bit,
Yeah.
it's easy to fall into that. Let me tell you about me. That's not what it's about.
Yeah,
Right.
and two, like letting the peer drive the bus is where I've kind of, struggled with in the past because of the fact that like I'll talk about myself and then someone will ask me a bunch of questions about it and I'll answer all the questions. And then all of a sudden we're like down the rabbit hole of my experience. And I'm like, whoa, wait, how did we get so lost? How do we get back on track? You know, that's staying in the lane thing of like, I'm not in my lane. Where did I go? I'm in the dark.
Beep, beep, left turn signal, middle lane.
I need some streetlights. What are we doing? And especially being 24 coming into this field and, you know, being in this field for the past 6 years, it definitely trial and error, especially like we have to, as peer supporters and as people with lived experience, you know, own our experience and how that kind of sometimes infiltrates and slips in and bleeds into what we do. Because I was so able to like flow into that dynamic of oversharing with people is like, because I was never really listened to growing up. And like, all I ever did was like regulate other people and listen to their stuff and just sit while other people would just to me. And then I would have to support them and like whole thing. And so when I got the opportunity to really like talk about myself in a way that like I thought I was helping someone else, I realized I was just doing the same thing other people were doing to me growing up. And I really had to look at myself in the mirror and be like, oh, this is happening. Okay. I need to reel that back in. And I really need to focus on the person that I'm supporting rather than, you know, getting under the wheel, the hamster wheel of just like talking about all my stuff, you know?
So question for both of you, actually. When you catch that, have you ever had a moment where in real time you realize that the spotlight has been on you for a little bit too long, like it's been there for too long? How do you shift it back? Like how do you shift the conversation back onto the other person?
Well, this is why I'm really good at doing this on the podcast specifically, is because I've done this a lot in peer support as well, of where once I discovered it was something that I did, it was just one of those things like when you buy a red car, you see all the red cars on the road after. And it was one of those things where like I finally paid attention to it and it was like a eureka moment. And then I had the ability moving forward to do that. And I do that in groups now too, of just being like, you know, somebody asks me a question about my life, I'm able to like talk about it and then wrap it back into the course that we're talking about. Yeah. Or wrap it back into, what can we do for you? So I'm always, you know, trying to do like, I will meet that person in the middle of being like, yeah, I can talk about this. Like, this is my experience. So like, you know, how do you feel like you can regulate yourself or, you know, whatever that looks like for them in that conversation? What about you?
Well, it's great self-awareness. And you mentioned self-awareness earlier, Nathan. And the only reason we catch that stuff is if we're being self-aware.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And just being able to bring things back. And you do a great job right here. That's what you're alluding to, right? Yeah. Same thing, you know. I don't remember. You would think I would, because I like to talk about myself more than anybody I know. I do. No, I think you're right. Catch it as fast as you can. And you know what? I gotta own whatever I do. I make a lot of mistakes. And that's okay. As long as I own them.
Yeah. And there's power in that. There's power in owning your mistakes.
Oh, there's so much power.
Yeah, there's absolutely that. Because if you see, you know, the mistake or you see, you know, the wrongdoing or the slip up or like whatever you want to call it, you know, then you can own it and you can take accountability for it and you can make a change. And that is the most powerful thing that you can do.
Yeah, think Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like his character arc and the way he owns
arc is insane.
The way he owns his own mistakes, the way he f's up at the end of season 2 and then realizes this mistake he's made and then chooses to go back. It's like he takes ownership of that and he helps save the whole world. So like my point, that's such great information for both of you. I did have another question for you. I was wondering if you guys would be interested in like sharing like have you guys had a situation where there wasn't a good match between you and the peer and what you had to do to either like what you had to do to get out of that situation if it turned kind of toxic or nasty or if you just had to go to the like the higher ups and be like, this is not working, like.
Do you want me to answer that one?
Yeah, go ahead, you can take away.
Okay. I don't have anything, I don't think.
No?
Mm-mm. You don't have anything?
What's the question?
When
it's not working out.
When it's not, like, have you had a matchup that just wasn't for you, Sorry. It didn't work out, it was toxic, etc., and how did you get out of it?
Absolutely happens. And I got to go to my supervisor and say, I just can't do this with this person right now. And you know what? Depending on your supervisor, mine wouldn't even ask me why.
Yeah.
He would just go,
Just
okay,
say, all right.
cool, let's find somebody else.
Cool.
The problem with getting to that point is if I wasn't self-aware along the way, I may have done some damage.
Yep.
Nothing,
Yeah.
irreparable, but something I don't want to do again. So that happens a lot where we have to switch around peers and peer supporters.
Yeah, there's been many a times where I've been supporting a peer and, maybe they bring up a little bit too much of my family wounds, especially being a young peer supporter at, 24 when I started here. How many times have I freaking said that? You guys get it by now. But I was young when I started, and so it was like mommy and daddy issues coming through full force because a lot of the people that I was peer supporting were adults. So it was putting me back into the same kind of dynamic that I had growing up. So it was something I really had to navigate. And there were so many times where I came to Bill and I was like, I can't do this. This person reminds me of my mom, or I can't do this. This person reminds me of my dad. It's just not working out for me. There's been times where I've been really triggered in this building. I've had to kind of obviously these people aren't here anymore, but I've had to avoid people and shut my door and not even come out of my office when they're here. And those are all things that you learn along the way. And if I hadn't had that self-awareness of in that moment, and sometimes it's not in the moment, sometimes it's after weeks and weeks of peer supporting the individual, it finally clicks for you. That's happened to me a bunch where, one day I woke up and I was like, holy crap, dude, this person reminds me of my mom. What am I doing?
This isn't going to be a good, healthy dynamic.
Holy shit. And then that's when I go over to Bill and I'm like, dude, guess what I just found out? And then I was like, this person does this thing and this thing. And that's exactly what my mom did, dude. I can't do this anymore. This is just way too dysregulating for me. And obviously I'm not experiencing that now. And that's nobody in this building currently.
That's fair,
but
yeah.
it did happen earlier on in my career. And Bill was like, hey, no problem. Bring them to me. I'll let the answer.
That's funny. Just, hey, yours now.
We have the opportunity to support people that we don't share beliefs with, or that I support people that I don't see eye to eye with
Very important.
on different things. But that doesn't mean I can't be their peer supporter. I have to learn to respect those things and work within those things. What I can't do is, for me, I do know the answer to this one. People I have a hard time with are people that remind me of me.
Oh,
And
okay.
I got to tap out of those.
Wow, that's very insightful.
And it doesn't happen very often, but yeah.
Very interesting. But I think you raised a good point too of in peer support, and fundamentally in the nature of peer support and what we learn in our trainings is that we have to be middle of the road. We have to be Switzerland. We cannot politically take sides or whatever. We have to be very middle of the road when we're peer supporting people. We have to meet people where they are, regardless of what that looks like, regardless of what their past looks like. And some people who work in the peer support world, that's a very difficult thing for them to navigate and for them to really understand and grasp. But we have to check our own biases at the door and show up fully for that person, and sometimes there's situations where we just can't, and that's when we have to have that self-awareness of being this is just too much for me. I can't do this. Let me, hand them off to somebody who can. Let's do a peaceful transition because I have that self-awareness and I know that I'm not going to be all the way there. And they deserve that. Every peer deserves a peer supporter that's going to show up for them fully. And if I'm not able to do that, I have to check my ego and humble myself and say, I know you want to, and I know that you want to help this person so much, but you just can't. And that's the reality of the situation, and you have to be okay with that. And that's been a really tough pill for me to swallow. As Captain Savaho, I literally, when I can't, when I can't, man, it is a big blow to my ego and the little girl in me who wants to solve everybody's problems. It hurts bad, but it's gotten less and less as the years pass, and I've learned that that person's getting better support, it not coming from me. So that always helps me feel better.
Yeah, like it's just because not only is it validating that not only are you happy that they've gotten the help that they need, but it's also validating to know that you made the right choice.
Absolutely. And then I'm protecting myself too,
yeah, and protecting yourself. We don't want to be hiding in your office. You said like there's some people you felt like you had to hide from. That doesn't sound pleasant.
It was not a good situation, but luckily now if that same person showed up tomorrow, it would not be the same situation, because I've grown so much and I have so many more tools under my belt, and I've learned so much about regulating and nervous system resilience and things like that like now I could probably show up in that space and be okay. And that's just, it takes a long time to learn those things.
It does.
Figure that out.
You alluded to something that made me think of one other thing that I think is important for me, and that's to always continue learning.
Yes.
To get better and better.
Absolutely.
Like
super important.
Yes, of course. So that actually leads into another question I had, which was, do you guys feel like, as peer supporters, you have learned a lot about yourselves and become more stronger, more resilient people, like as a result of the job, or has it kind of been the opposite, or middle of the road? You think you have?
I think that's fair to say. Yeah.
I think two things can be true at once. I think it's both for me. I think I've learned so much, and I've had a sense of self-awareness doing this job that I probably would have never gotten otherwise. It's speed ran a lot of my healing that I probably wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
Nice.
It's opened a lot of triggers I probably wouldn't have been opened to or shown had I not been in this. I've grown so much and learned so much, and the ability and the freedom to learn, and the going through the gauntlet in the way that I did, I think really helped me understand how resilient I am, and, how adaptable and amenable I can be, as well as at the same time, it was a really hard process. It was a really daunting, hard, just emotionally dysregulating, and I burnt out, and there was so much that went into it. But I do feel like I came out on the other side needing kind of that experience to realize like, oh shit, if I don't deal with this stuff, it's going to consume me and take me over. So it really brought a mirror up to myself in a way that probably wouldn't have happened otherwise. And, in that, grueling process of recovery, it was a really beautiful experience of, learning so much about myself and about the way other people heal and navigate the world, and taking things from them as well, that I probably going back wouldn't have really done it any differently, because it's taught me so much.
What was the question?
Powerful realization there. Oh, just that, do you feel like being a peer recovery supporter has taught you, like you mentioned learning and making sure you're always learning. So I was like, do you feel like being a peer recovery supporter has taught you a lot of things about yourself, and also given you more strength and understanding, and made you feel better about yourself as a person?
You know what I wish I had? I wish I had statistics for how many words came out of my mouth the first 2 years I was here, and how many words have come out the last 6. Because I bet they're pretty even.
Really?
I think that learning to be quiet and listen is something that peer support taught me that I hadn't been able to learn in the first 45 years I was here.
That's powerful.
So that's a big one for me.
Absolutely. I would agree with that for myself too.
Cool. I think that, it's both of you have probably found a lot of, it seems like both of you have found a lot of personal growth in this.
There's a big picture piece too, for me.
Yeah. What's that?
That I think about every day before I leave the house. And that's to meet people where they are. I had to learn, I didn't even know what that meant, when I came into this field. But the ability to do that and be mindful is the key for me to making progress.
Amazing. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's important enough to almost treat like a mantra. Like you said, you are kind of treating it like a mantra. It's like every day, every morning before you come to work.
Literally say that prayer every morning before I leave my house.
Meet people where they are, meet yourself where you're at.
That's the hard part. Well, it's not hard to meet me where I am. It's hard to like me when I meet me where I am sometimes.
Ooh.
And then like yourself enough to be willing to work with yourself to like continue good habits and grow and stuff like that.
Yep.
Like you can, like you, that's some those are some wise words, Bill.
Real.
Liking yourself is like it's a whole process that is like, I think that once achieved to a degree, it makes growth a lot easier.
Oh, absolutely. I can attest to that. I like myself a lot more now than I used to, and it's a lot easier to take care of myself when I like myself.
Good point.
Some days I don't always like myself, but, for the most part, I feel like I like myself. Or, I don't even think it's whether or not I like myself. It's just like I know what I deserve as a person, as a human being.
There you go. You know your worth.
And I know what I should have deserved, growing up and being a child, and things that I should have gotten as a child. And so now I am working in my adulthood to give back all of those things that I should have been given. And I think that's really more of what it is for me. It's really not about like, do I like myself? Do I not like myself? It's like, how can I give myself the things I never got that I was supposed to get?
How do you show up for yourself and respect yourself? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was the second thing you said, Bill?
Valuing yourself.
Valuing yourself.
Did we hit everything we want to hit on peer support?
We did. I think we're good.
Is there anything else you get? Is there anything else you guys are going to add? No?
I think that's it.
I'm good.
I think we can wrap a bow on it and say we did it.
Yay.
Yay. Good job, guys. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. And thanks for learning about peer support. It's really kind of who we are and what we do.
Yeah, and if can we direct them to where they'd like to go if they're interested in trying it themselves?
Sure. Wherever you're from in the world, I'm sure that you have some sort of mental health board that exists, at least here in the United States. Pretty much every city has a mental health board.
Yeah.
And go to your local mental health board or just search peer support near me and see if there's an opportunity for you. Mental Health America does a peer support training. There's cost money. Here in Ohio, we do a statewide training, and that's free for people who live in Ohio. So check your state department, check your city department, check wherever you need to, and get involved in peer support because it's great.
Yep.
Heck yeah. Until next time, I'm Nathan.
I'm Amanda.
I'm Bill.
We are the In Our Issues crew. That includes you, and we'll see you next time. In Our Issues, peers helping peers conquer fears. Peace out.
Bye.
So now you know a thing or two about what it's like being a peer supporter. Helping people feels good, but it can be tricky sometimes because what hurts one person might help another. Everyone's just so unique and has their own issues that they need to work through. And it's your job to listen and provide direction. We got some more episodes in the works for you. We've got a solo episode featuring me where I talk about the mental health connections with me and my music. And we also have a group episode where we talk about managing our energy. Both of those are coming up. See you next week. Don't forget you're awesome. Peace out.